Welcome back, everybody. How's everybody doing today? This is Marriage Monday on a Tuesday -1. Just want to thank everybody and welcome everybody to Marriage is Real. You have Damien, one part of the super team here tonight. Just want to welcome everybody. I hope everyone's having a great week, and just thank you guys so much for joining us. So just wanted to welcome you guys in. I hope everyone's doing well. And I guess probably one of the first things that everybody's going to ask is like, where's Jamie? Where's Jamie? I don't see Jamie. So Jamie had some other stuff that she was taking care of, some other events that she had to handle. So I'm going to be solo dolo tonight. Kind of, but not really, because we have someone that's going to be joining us tonight that is super and known her for a long time. Good people, and we want to have a real conversation with everyone and just kind of talk about some things and just see what's going on with everybody. What's up, Dawkins? We're gonna give a few more minutes before everybody. Uh, give everybody a few minutes before we start jumping on the topic and everything. Yeah, I know Dawkins. He said he don't like we don't like you like that. I try, like I say all the time, she reflects my shine. I reflect her shine rather. So it's always good to, have your partner in common with you. But she had some stuff she had to take care of. So it is all good. We're gonna keep doing this thing anyway. So we just give a couple more seconds for everybody to jump in, and we're gonna make this thing happen, guaranteed. Um, so what's been going on in current? I think it's spring. We sprung forward Sunday. So I don't know about y'all, but I am still struggling with the time difference. That hour, I know since I hit those 40s, that hour it's gotten me. So, you know, it is what it is. Got to kind of deal with it, but it's all good. So what time is it? We'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we're gonna get started with everything. But yeah, I'm just so glad to be back with everybody. Everyone's doing well. Um, yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So tonight our special guest. All right. Hey, I don't know what happened. Technology, who knows? So let's keep going, y'all. Y'all let me know if you can hear and see me. Give me some thumbs up or some hearts or something like that. You never know with technology. I was like, man, everything's going so well. And then all of a sudden everything just crashed. But it is what it is. You just got to keep going. Shrug it out, shake it off, and keep going. So let me go ahead and introduce our guest so we can get started. Latoya is a dynamic speaker, author, and licensed professional counselor. With over 10 years helping people in this profession, she has worked in a variety of settings, including prisons, community, mental health, and most recently in private practice. Latoya notes her life's work is to educate, empower, and assist people on their healing journey. So, without further ado, let's bring in our therapist for tonight, Latoya. Hey,
Hey, how are
how you
you?
doing?
I'm good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm doing well. I
Good.
apologize. I don't know what in the heck happened. I
Listen,
did pay my
technology
bill.
does what it want to do.
I paid my bill, I promise y'all. And I
I,
upgraded my internet,
I
so I
text my
don't know
husband
what
like, "What y'all up there doing?"
what's going on, Ben and Palante. Thank you guys for joining us. So let's since we lost a couple minutes, let's just jump right in.
Cool.
All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. Most importantly, we're going to talk about mental health. Um, One of the things I wanted to kind of start with is, what are some of what's your thought about um, the reservations that we as people have about mental health in the Black community?
I just think we don't know enough about it as a whole, and people tend to fear or shy away from what they don't know. And
Mhm.
so because we don't really talk about it, it's kind of like over there. Like, okay, so think about the movie Soul Food. Remember Uncle Pete? They kept Uncle Pete in the room, but nobody
Yeah,
really knew why. Like, I think
right.
it's like that just because we kind of don't talk about it. But I think that comes from a bigger societal perspective of like mental illness. They used to be like, okay, go to the hospital. Like, and then
Mhm.
they just went away and you never saw them again. So I think
Right.
it's just we don't talk about it enough. There's not enough education about it.
Gotcha. And I'm a movie buff, so I watch movies all the time. And you look back on some, back in the day when there were movies about mental health and the what is it called, the sanitarium? Is that what they called
Yep.
them?
Mm-hmm.
And they would do shock therapy and lobotomies
I
and all
know.
kinds of different stuff. And I think about that, and it's like you don't know what a person's reason or their trigger point as to why they don't want to do it. and
Mm-hmm.
and and like you said, to your point, we don't always talk about this kind of stuff, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't have these conversations, and it's more of a we've had to kind of adapt and shake it off or shrug it off. There's so many
Right.
different things. Black men is like, hey, don't cry, be tough, don't do
Right.
this, don't do that. And
And
so yeah, I think that was, what you said was a really good point.
but I think to follow up with that, I think that there wasn't space to process your emotions.
Mm,
So therapy is not just talking. Like it's not just,
okay.
hey, how you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like like we're talking about deep things, feelings come up, people are crying, like it's a lot. It's heavy, it's emotional, it's physically exhausting. And I don't
Mhm.
think that there was always time in the Black community for that. If you trying to make sure the lights stay on, if you trying to make sure you
Yeah.
staying out of trouble, if you know what I mean, like we just come from such a place where we just didn't have time or the privilege to really process our feelings like that. So that could be part of it also.
Right. And then also it could be, I ain't got money for that. I'm trying to make
Okay.
sure I feed these kids. I got to make sure
Mhm.
that, like you said, the lights stay on. Whatever the case
Right.
is,
Yeah.
that's another expense I got to worry about. But us not really thinking about, I'll tell Jamie all the time, uh, you know, we go to the doctor for our physical bodies, but then when it comes to our minds and our emotional health, it's like
Mhm.
we don't want to invest in that. And that's something
Mm-mm.
that we've got to change. I've been seeing a lot of celebrities, Charlemagne, and a lot. There's been a big push
Right.
in our community to help out with mental health because it's so important, and holding those things on and harboring those things and stress and all that. You could go get go to the doctor and get a full panel, and they not
Right.
even know what's going on with you, and
Right.
it could just be stress.
They just started asking those questions. They just started
Wow.
asking the stress questions and the depression questions when you go to the doctor now. They used to never ask.
Wow. I didn't even think
Mhm.
about that. That's
Mhm.
a really good point.
Yep.
And it's so important though. It's really important. I mean, I've talked to therapists before, and it helped me out. And it's like sometimes
Me too.
you just need a sounding board. You just need
Yeah.
somebody to say, "Hey, am I tripping? Is something wrong with me?" Or
Right. Right.
just someone that can hear you and kind of help you articulate, what's going on within you from a
Mhm.
professional
Mhm.
standpoint.
Right.
Yeah.
That unbiased opinion
Yeah.
mixed with, I mean, we talk a lot, like in the clinical world, we talk a lot about evidence based practice, but that just means that somebody did research and decided that this way of talking to people works. So, I mean, some of that is cool, but also recognizing that when they did that research, they weren't talking about us. It didn't account for our experience. So,
Wow.
making sure you see someone who, I think it's important that you see someone who looks like you, because there are certain
I
things
agree.
when you're in therapy you don't
Yeah.
want to have to explain.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Jamie and I, when we want to talk to people, it's like I need you to understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And let me ask you this. I've heard it said that black people have PTSD just generationally. Is that true?
I think so. Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's highly debated, but I think it's true. Just based on generational trauma, how could we not?
Hmm. Yeah, I heard the same thing, and I've also heard that we're still processing these things, because I heard about what's it called, a toxic wound, and you think
Hmm.
about someone that's dealt with something for so long, and it's like if that's never been addressed,
Right.
it seemingly could keep going down the line if it's
Right.
never dealt with.
It's so funny that people are like, everything you feel, the baby feels, everything you do, the baby does with you, except the trauma piece. And you can't have
Wow.
it both ways. If
Yeah.
everything I feel, the baby feels, then the trauma that I feel, the baby feels too. So the baby comes
Wow.
out having already felt the trauma.
Wow. Makes
Mhm.
me think about in the 80s when they were talking about the crack babies. Like that baby didn't smoke any crack, but the effects
But that,
of what
there you go.
happened in that mother's womb had long lasting effects on that child.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I know we're talking about mental health, and how from a relational standpoint, what are your thoughts on personal, before you even jump into the couple stuff, what are your thoughts about getting that personal help?
I think everyone should go at least once.
Hmm.
I think that getting the personal help is so important because that's what marriage should be. It should be
Hmm.
two happy, healthy, whole people coming together for
Yeah.
the purpose of love and whatever else they want to build together. It's
Hmm.
really difficult to do that if you're struggling with depression, if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with PTSD. It's difficult to manage you and then manage you in a relationship with someone else because, as you know, marriage is a mirror. Everything that you thought you knew about
Absolutely.
yourself, you didn't really know until you got
Right.
married.
Exactly.
So if you haven't dealt with you, dealing with
Yeah.
you in a relationship is even harder.
Yeah. That's so true. It is. That's, we say that all the time, that your spouse is a mirror reflection of you. So you have to be aware of what you're doing, what you're saying, and how you're moving, because a lot of times they just giving you back what you're giving them.
Exactly.
So that's what we got to do. So so I think, Jamie and I, we're coaches, so we're kind of like the first line of defense, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And when we talk to couples, we're always like, okay, let us talk. Let's kind of go through what's going on with you guys. And then one thing that we always suggest is that you also need to talk to a therapist. You need to talk to somebody, a professional, a clinician, that can kind of help work you through, whatever those issues are that you guys are having within your relationship. Um, so in your opinion, what do you think are some red flags that people have, you know, when it's like, okay, I've talked to Damien and Jamie. They've encouraged and you know heard heard both of you guys talk about the situation, and
Mhm.
then now, what are some of the things that people need to be thinking about when it's time to go to that next level?
It's so funny that you say you the first line of defense because I always tell my couples like I'm the last stop on the left. They've literally tried everything before they get to me. Like
Yeah.
they talk to the pastor, the
Uh-huh.
coaches, the
Yeah.
marriage retreats,
Yeah.
everything before they get to me. I
Mhm.
think the piece that's missing, because I'm familiar with you and your wife, and I love y'all's platform.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but I think the piece that's missing is the attention to the individual's mental health. That's the piece that's
Wow.
missing.
Hmm.
Because y'all can teach communication skills just like I can.
Hmm.
Y'all can teach date night just like I can.
Hmm.
But the attention to the individual's mental health, I think that's the thing that's missing. Because a lot of times couples are moving and operating and they're not understanding their mental health, right?
Hmm.
So the husband's like, well, she's just lazy. She's not lazy, she's
Hmm.
depressed. The
Wow.
depression has her to a point of fatigue where she can't get up. But until you go see a therapist, you're not even seeing it from that lens. So I think making sure
Wow.
to pay attention to the individual, that's the piece that's usually missed.
Wow. And we got Dawkins already dropping comments for us. He said she's dropping knowledge already. Yeah.
Thank
Hey.
you.
he's one of our he's one of our longtime supporters. He's actually the reason that we connected with BS3 Network. Great
Look
guy.
at that.
Him and his sisters have a great platform, and we actually come on after them. And
Okay.
so thanks Dawkins for the comment. Yeah. So yeah, that's good. Let me ask you this. What about if, after you've been with someone for so long, you start becoming indifferent? You think
Mhm.
that's something that could start having and start having issues or making issues within the relationship?
Definitely. I call it roommate syndrome.
I like
Because we're
that.
just in this pattern of like doing things like, okay, I'm gonna do the laundry, you're gonna take out the trash, I'm gonna pay the light bill, you're gonna pay the cable bill. So you just been together so long, and if you don't fan that flame, it dies.
Yeah.
Life is gonna life, okay? It's
Yes,
always
it
gonna be
is.
something to do,
Yeah.
something else outside of
Mm.
your marriage is always gonna need your attention.
Yeah.
So
That's
being
true.
together for so long, you like, oh, well, we've been together 20 years. He know I love him. Well, he could have forgot
Right.
because you haven't shown him in a while.
Right.
So I definitely think that length of time and becoming indifferent and just falling into roommate syndrome. I'm
Yeah.
gonna cook, you clean. I'm gonna do this, you do that, and you're keeping the business of the house going, but not
Mm.
keeping the business of the marriage going.
Right. And so often, we've seen this in different couples how, and especially when you have children,
Mm,
you got they become like a buffer between
they do,
you and your spouse.
literally.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? You got, depending on the number of kids, you can have 2 or 3 practices to go to.
Yes,
Then you got all the games that take all day. And so what
yes.
happens is you start slowly drifting apart. It's not with
Mhm.
intent. It's just
Mm-mm.
that your lives have gotten so busy
Mhm.
that you've forgotten, hey, I've got to make time for them, because guess what?
Right.
In well, I maybe not now, but back in the day, in 18 years, your kids was gonna be out
Yeah,
the house. But
right, right, right,
I
right.
don't know about that now, because my son's 21 and he back in his room right now.
Listen, they
But
stick around a little longer this
you
time.
know what I'm saying? But it's so imperative that
Mhm.
you remember we are one. We're together. We're supposed to
Right.
be walking life out together.
Mhm.
And if we put all of our energy into them,
Right.
when they finally do leave the nest, I don't even know who you are anymore. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? We've become
Right.
strangers in our house. Like
Mhm.
who had a song "Strangers in My House"?
Tamia.
Tamia, yeah, "Stranger in My House," and that
Yeah.
stranger is your husband or your wife, because you
Yeah.
just forgot. Hey, let me make sure I'm paying attention to them. Let me make
Yeah.
sure that I'm giving them some time and some affection and all of that. You know?
And you got to get creative with it, right? So, like,
Yeah,
if you're going to a game, make sure y'all sit together, sit in the car at the game. Like,
yeah,
they're going to have another game, sit in the car together, check in with each other,
right,
share some chips, and then go watch the end of the game, right? Like,
right.
you have to make it a priority. You have to be creative because waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for the right pocket of time it may
Right.
not show up.
Right. And then you think about you got them kids, as parents, we always want to support our children, but
Of
everybody
course.
ain't good. You know what I'm saying?
I
You
know.
look, you traveling all over the country. We got a soccer game, a basketball game. Your son cannot shoot the ball at all.
At all.
You know what I'm saying? And so now you going to all these games. And it's like we really could have just went on the day because you didn't sat on the bench the whole season.
Or we really could have just put him in rec and it would have been 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and we're done.
Yeah, that is so. I mean, you love we love our kids and we want to support them and
Sure, yeah,
everything,
yeah,
but just like somebody got to stop that bench from flying up. So
yeah.
sometimes it
Here
might
we
be
are.
our son or our daughter. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
Um, how much of a issue do you think in your professional experience do you think that infidelity plays a part in needing to speak with a therapist?
So, not as big as you would think.
Really?
Not in my practice.
Wow.
But there are clinicians who specialize in life after infidelity.
Okay.
So maybe they get all of them. But in my practice, I would say only about 30%.
Wow. And I personally consume a lot of relationship content like
Right.
every day because I'm always looking for things to talk about, topics and everything like that.
Right.
And one of the things that I hear all the time from the dating world, people that haven't been married, they feel like infidelity is the end all be all. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just not the case.
Not
You know what
really.
I'm saying?
Not like we think.
Not like we think. It is, and
Mm-mm.
I think they're speaking from a place of ignorance, lack of knowledge, I'd rather say. And
Yeah.
it's like, as crazy as it may sound, sometimes you don't excuse what happened, but sometimes those situations can help strengthen your marriage.
Right.
You
All the
know,
people I know who've stayed together after infidelity have created marriage ministries, have said like, I didn't even know who my husband was until this, and she gave me my husband back. And I mean,
wow,
obviously that's not that's not everyone. Some people
right,
do end up separating and
sure,
getting a divorce, but
sure,
it's not the end all be all like we think it is when we're single. And I think that just comes from never being married,
mm-hmm,
never being in it with someone. Because I don't care how long y'all dated. I don't care if y'all live together. I'm sorry, and I know people don't be feeling me on this, but marriage is more than a piece of paper. It just is.
absolutely,
It just
it
is. And
just
so
is.
I think that if they do this, I'm out. I think that comes from, just like you said, a lack of knowledge. They have just never been married, so they haven't experienced it.
Right. And we talk about that all the time. It's like, it's the same analogy as when people want to tell you about how to raise your kids. Or, when I have my baby not gonna do this, my baby not gonna sleep in the bed
They
with me.
baby be doing the same thing. I'm not gonna bottle feed. I'm only gonna okay.
We gonna
Sure.
see. When you gotta be at work at 6 and that baby been up all night talking about where we going, you put
Right.
that baby right in the bed with you so that you can get a few hours of sleep because you
Right.
gotta keep it moving.
You have to, like, life doesn't stop
It
for
doesn't.
those instances. And so you, like you said, you gotta keep it moving.
Right. You just have to keep it moving. So let's see what else we're gonna talk about. Um, what about do you think that sex plays a part in
Now
needing?
that's the one.
That's the one. Did I
That's the
hit the
one
did I
right
hit the
there.
one?
That's it. It's let me tell you. So there's like a big three or four. It's definitely it's sex,
Okay.
it's finances,
Okay.
it's family, like the in-laws, and then communication.
Mm,
You can conquer those, you got it.
you got it. You didn't
Yeah.
one.
And so usually with sex, it comes down to, depending on the stage of life that the couple is in, it
Okay.
really comes down to like who's doing most of the emotional labor in the house. That person is
Mm.
typically tired. The other person is ready to have sex.
So tell me what. Okay. I don't know. Tell me what'd you say?
So the
Emotional.
emotional labor,
What's
right? So
emotional labor? I
taking
love
care of them
learning new
kids,
words.
it's the emotions, like keeping the house flowing. So who's taking care of the kids? Who's
Okay.
checking in for the PTO meeting? Who's making dinner? Who's kissing boo boos? Who's, you know what I mean? Like who's like really in it with the kids, who's reading the bedtime story, who doing the bedtime routine. Like
Uh,
the person who does the bulk of that is usually the tired person. The person who does the
mm,
least of that is usually the person who's ready to
ready,
roll.
ready to
And
rock.
obviously every couple's gonna be different,
Right.
but that's just what I see. And
That's
so
not necessarily gender specific either, is it?
mm-mm,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah.
Cause like at my house,
Hmm.
more days of the week than I like to admit, my husband does most of the emotional labor.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay. You got
I
another
mean,
comment.
I step in on the weekend. Oh, thank you.
He said she is bad.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
um, so y'all know you said communication was one.
Hmm.
So is it a lack of communication or negative communication, or is it both?
All of the above.
All of them.
And I used to be a person who would scream like communication is key, communication is key, communication is key. It
Mhm.
is, but understanding, that's where it's really at. Cause
You
I can
know,
tell
that's
you,
good.
yeah, because I could be talking and telling you and blah
Yeah,
blah blah. But if you're not understanding it, if I'm not putting it in a way that you can receive it, then
right.
I'm just talking.
That's a really good point because it's all
Mhm.
about the application.
There you go.
You know, if
And if
I'm
you
telling
don't understand what I'm saying, you can't
right,
apply it.
you cannot even apply what I'm telling you. That's good. That's
Yep.
really good. Negative. Yep. That's a good one. And then oh, wait a minute, I've got another comment here. Doc is saying we need to have our own queen, three, and king. I can make
Anytime.
that happen.
Anytime.
Yeah, they've got an awesome podcast. I love we when we actually started with doing the on BS3,
Hmm.
we they actually premiered us and we had a great
Really
time. Great
good.
time, great dialogue, and everything went really well.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anytime. I'm available.
Yeah, so communication is good. And then I got another one I want to ask you about. What
Ask me
about
about it.
what about secrets? Is that, keep
Serious is bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this because there's a debate that goes on. You got because some people would consider secrets as lying, right?
Hmm.
And then you got the I'm not lying, but I'm lying by omission. Like I'm not saying everything that needs to be said, but I ain't really tell you I really didn't lie. You know what I'm saying?
See, I just feel like if you got to do all that, you
Yeah,
lied.
if you gotta do it, you gotta
Yeah, if you got to do all that, you lied.
you
When
lie.
yeah, because you lied by omission. That's
Yeah,
still a lie. I
yeah,
think that secrets just give way for other things, and it could give way for other things like resentment. It doesn't. I think when people hear secrets, they automatically think someone's cheating, but that doesn't have to be the case, right? But
yeah.
the secrets, it's just no, don't do that. Don't have secrets. Tell all, confess
Tell all.
all.
So you believe in more of a kind of open book type of situation?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you seen and this is just I just literally thought about this. Pornography. Has that
yeah.
been a big issue too?
Hmm. My only gripe with pornography is this:
Okay.
when people get caught, they like to say, "I have a porn addiction." But do you like, or do you just like it and you just didn't want your partner to know? I just hate that people are
Uh,
so quick to like throw the addiction on it because there's criteria for addiction, right? You
okay.
have to be doing it in a place where it's going to cause you bodily harm. You have to be doing it so much that it's impacting your life roles. That's like real addiction. You just watching porn and you got caught. That just y'all didn't communicate. Y'all didn't have an
Wow.
understanding of what the role of porn is in your relationship.
Wow. So it could be a thing of them not wanting to be accountable and you straight
Hmm.
up you just got busted.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably, you know, I could see that would be an embarrassing situation. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
You
Right.
wherever you
Especially depending on what you're watching.
yeah, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you literally got caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And
Right.
and and I think and I think that would, go back to communication. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Talking about that, what
Hmm.
what is it that, what are the yays and nays are? But I think so many people, it's so, you know, in my opinion, sexuality has always had such a negative stigma. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like it hasn't been talked about enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's like, it's one of those hush things.
Very, very
It's
much
something that's
so.
understood that happens, but we don't talk about it.
Right.
You know what I'm
That's the
saying?
problem.
That's the problem. And I still remember when I it's been 10 years ago, but I still remember I went and had it when I talked to my son about the birds and the bees, and I was like, I wanted to want him to have like an experience, right? So I took him to we went to Starbucks. And so I was like, order whatever you want. We're gonna get a table like two men and we just
Yeah.
chop it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talked, I said, you can say whatever you want. You can say the words. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care if they cuss words. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the word because I wanted to see and hear where he was coming from. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's it was so imperative to have that conversation because there was so much course correction that needed to happen. He's 12.
Exactly.
The things that 12-year-old boys think,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I'm so glad that we had this because I didn't get that. I didn't get the conversation. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And all our parents did the best they could with what they knew to
They
do.
had.
No
That's right.
shade to them. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Because it's still it's an uncomfortable conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so I'm so glad that we talked and I got a chance to see where he was coming from so that I could help him to understand things
Right.
so that he could know what things really
Have
are.
a better
You know what I'm
understanding.
saying? Exactly. And so now that same, had we not had that conversation, that same boy becomes a man.
Exactly.
He's never had a conversation about
Mm-mm.
sex. And especially, one of the places, in my opinion, that I feel like there should be more education is really in the church. That's just my opinion. I'm sure I get pushback about that. I think that it could probably be done in a tasteful way. I think it could be
Sure.
done in a respectful way, but
I mean,
it's
they have like youth groups and stuff like that. They could do it. The
right. Just
right person. The
the,
right
the, the
person.
right person, the right context, everything
Right.
like that. Because I think that there are two sides. I think there's the parental side where you're having that conversation, but I think there's a spiritual side to it because we believe in God. God created sex, so there's a way that should go. And I think the more we take the mystery out of it, the more we take the
Mm-hmm.
spookiness and don't even
Mm-hmm.
say. I remember when I was a little boy, you couldn't even say the word sex. You
They're
get a whooping
not.
if you said what you mean sex. I don't know. I don't know what I mean. I just know that I said the word. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I think that it's so important to just, again, bringing it full circle, lines of
Yeah.
communication, talking and having that conversation because
Mm-hmm.
it can only help.
Yeah. I think that people shy away from having those difficult conversations because they're difficult and because they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I also think that people are just forgetting how to talk. They're not
Mhm.
aware of what it is that they actually want to know. So asking someone, "Hey, do you watch porn?" Like you ask someone that and they're like, "What?" But if you're about to marry this person, I
Yeah.
don't want to know that.
You probably want to know that because that could be an issue
It
later.
could.
And we got a couple. Let's look at these comments real quick. Dawkins again. He said Queen 3 and King show topic Secrets and Lies with special guest host therapist Latoya Carter.
I am there. Let's
I think
do
we
it.
can we can definitely make that happen.
I
Let's
am
see
there.
what Ben said. He said, I agree that conversation needs to happen in the church,
Mhm.
but it depends on who's doing it. I agree
Right.
with you
I
on
agree
that,
with
man.
that.
Yeah, we just got to make sure we ain't got old, you know,
Okay.
tricky coming out. You know what I'm saying? You got to have the right person that's
Right.
been fully vetted to
Hmm.
to have that conversation. Um, what about intimacy? I'm not talking about necessarily sex per se, but what would you say is a correlation between intimacy and therapy, if there is one?
I think there is one because I think by the time people come to me, they're lacking something. And so even if they're saying, well, they don't help around the house or blah, 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 they're lacking intimacy too. Because how come this person doesn't know how you like to be helped around the house? Right? When's the last time
Right,
y'all just sat there and held hands and had a conversation?
right.
So I think it plays a huge role in it. And one way I teach my couples to have more intimacy is to have a meeting, two meetings a week. One is a
Mm,
business meeting where you
mm,
talk about who got soccer practice, who got a dentist appointment. Obviously, my kids have dentist appointments coming up, but you talk about that, like what has to be paid, like is the car in the shop. You talk about the business, but then
mm-hmm,
you have another where you check in and check on your emotional needs. Are you getting what you need from me? How can I serve you better?
mm-hmm,
This is where I felt slighted this week.
mm-hmm.
You have to make time for those conversations,
Right,
especially when you have children, because if not, they really take over your life.
right.
I think I messaged you. I was like, I'm so sorry for the delay. My life is not my own. Like,
I get it. I get it. And I think you bring up a good point about, you said emotional needs. How, from your experience in your practice, how tough is it for the men? Because as men, we're taught, emotions are for the weak.
right.
Emotions, that is a segue or a gateway into vulnerability, and we don't
Mm,
do that.
mm-mm,
Vulnerability gets you beat up. So,
mm-mm.
what, in your professional opinion, what, is that, could that be one of the issues that men are having intimacy
They
issues with
are.
Go ahead.
They are. I had one couple that I'm working with, and she said he just don't talk to me enough. He don't tell me how he feel,
Hmm.
and he was struggling. He
Yeah,
was like, "We talk every day,"
yeah.
and she was like, "But I don't know how you feel." And he was. I mean, I could see like the blank stare, and I was
Hmm.
like, "Okay, let me jump in." So
Yeah,
then that's when you do well. That's when I do psychoeducation on what feelings are, what emotions are, and then I figure out what's the block. Why don't you want to talk about this?
yeah.
And it's just what you said. It's the gateway to vulnerability. We don't want to be vulnerable. Okay,
Right,
well, why don't you want to be vulnerable? Who told you that this was bad?
right,
How do we deal with that? Because if
right,
you're gonna marry her and this is your partner, then you get to trust her with that, right?
right.
Right. But baby steps.
Hmm.
Don't think he had this one conversation with me and then tomorrow he's going to tell you everything that he felt today. Just look for one feeling a day. When we master that, let's look for two. But then for her, it's also understanding that he's not going to ever be as verbal as you. He's not going to ever be like,
Ever.
oh, I was happy, sad, jealous, embarrassed. Today was a day. He's never going to come home and do that.
Right. That's good. And
Mhm.
there's a movement. Are you familiar with the red pill movement? You heard that
No.
before? So basically, it's a movement, and I'm paraphrasing it, but where there is a movement of a men movement, where they're telling men how to be and how to deal with women,
Mhm.
in today's modern society. And so one of the things that one of the guys that I listen to, I just listen to their content and stuff, they say is, a woman, and I'm going to say today, in
Okay.
this 2022,
Hmm.
women don't want men to be vulnerable, because they will view them as being weaklings. You know what I'm saying? They're
I don't
saying,
know those
you
women.
know, hey, I don't want I don't want a man that cries. I don't want a man that is, because I'm not gonna respect him if he's this way, and I'm expected for him to be the man, if you will. Have you heard or seen anything like that?
I mean, I have, but I tend to like stay away from that
Okay.
content and that information because it's false.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that the reason why men are so angry and spaz out and be ready to rumble is because they don't cry. It's because they don't have an
Yeah.
outlet.
Yeah.
Him crying has absolutely nothing to do with him being the man of the house. Now, how I
Right.
define man of the house and how she defines man of the house could be different.
Right.
Both, neither one of them have anything to do with crying,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so I think it's wrong to tell men that he can't cry because he has feelings like everyone else. And if you don't respect a man who cries, then we need to talk about your definition of respect, and we need to talk about where you got that definition from.
Right. And that's a really good point. What I've seen is on a lot of these this content, these are younger people. And it's like
Okay.
they're to me, they're figuring it out. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to look and see
Mm-hmm.
how it is, what it should be. This is how I would want a man to be with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is I think one of the biggest things we miss is that those are God-given emotions.
Exactly. You
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 know what I'm
can't
saying?
control. I mean, you can learn to control it over time, but
Right.
crying is a function of the body.
Of the body.
Like,
And
mhm.
I'm not gonna say, Jamie cries way more than I do, but I'm not gonna spaz out and try to, like they say, have one thug tear. Something sad, something happens. I'm not
Right.
I'm not ashamed about that, because to me, I think one of the things that we miss as men is that that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to tap into all of everything. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not able to tap into all of the emotions that God gave you.
Right.
You
I
know?
agree. I agree.
And so like you were saying about the couple that you were talking about, like women just speak more words than men,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
We do.
I used to know the number. It was thousands of words a day. I think a
I
man
heard. Yeah.
it's like what 7,000 words a day for a man and like 30,000 for a women or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But it was a huge difference.
Right.
And so one of the things that we've talked to some of our couples about is like your husband is not your homegirl. So you're not gonna get the same
Mm-mm.
energy. You're not gonna get the
No.
same reaction and all of that. And I think that that's one of the things where it comes to communication. And I think
Exactly.
sometimes you don't always know how to articulate that though.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't,
Mm-hmm.
because we're analytical and logical and we're thinkers. Not to say that women are, I'm not saying that at all.
It's all good.
But it's just like we're more about trying to figure out the solution to things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But it goes back to communication
Yeah.
because my husband's like that. He's very solution focused. If I say it's cold, he won't say a word. He's just gonna turn the heat on.
That's just what it is.
I might not want you to turn the heat on. I might want to talk about that I'm cold, right? Like,
Right.
but saying to him, "Hey, I don't need you to fix it. I just kind of want you to hear me."
Yeah.
And he's not my homegirl. So whereas I would tell my homegirl something and she gonna give me a 10, if I tell him, he like, but then I say, I'm gonna need a little bit more than that. Let's try it again. And then I'll say it again and
Yeah.
he'll give me a little bit more. But it
Yeah.
comes with communication. Like I'm asking for what I need. I'm asking in a way that he understands and then he can give me what I need.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And I think, well, let me ask you this. Do you think, is that something, a skill set? Because I believe that's a skill set. Is that
Mhm.
something that you guys kind of learned over time that you could do that? Or is that kind of how it was right off the rip?
Nah, we learned that over time. we learned that over time. As
Yeah.
I started getting more involved in couples counseling and taking those trainings and revisiting those books and stuff like that from school, I
Mhm.
would be like, oh, look, babe, we should try this. We should do this. Now, obviously, it doesn't look as textbook as I would like present it to a couple in counseling,
Mhm.
but I have been able to translate some of those things over to my marriage, and it's been great.
That's
It's a
good.
skill.
It's a skill. How long have you and your husband's name is it Jeff?
Jeff,
How
yeah,
long y'all been married?
8 years.
8 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. That's good stuff. 8 years.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
eight
talking
years.
about. Hey, anybody that can make it over 30 days, I applaud.
Listen, you get through that first year, you in there.
Yeah.
Like, that
You
first year, I was like, what have we done?
you know what's funny? I remember it has to have been 20 years ago. There was a young lady I used to work at this job. And so her and we were kind of around the same age. And Jamie and I got married real young. I was
Mhm,
21, she was 19. And so
mhm,
this young lady, she was probably at this time we were both around our mid 20s, and she had been living with her boyfriend. And she was like, Damien, I think we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna make it official. We're gonna, we just gonna put some paper on it.
I know,
I said,
right?
okay, good. I said, I'm gonna just tell you, I've been trying to do coaching before I was even coaching. I told him, I said, I'm gonna tell you. I said, and when y'all sign that paper and y'all make it official, it's gonna be different. She was like, Damien, because she was real smart. She's like, Damien, it's not gonna be different. She started laying out all these reasons as to why,
Right.
it wasn't gonna be different. We're the
Right.
same people,
No.
it's the same situation. We're already living together. We're just making it legal. And I kind of chuckled when she said that. And I said, okay. I said, I tell you what, I know y'all gonna get married. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna ask you about this in about 6 months and see what you say.
Right.
6 months passed. Go down to our office. Like, hey, how's it going? Just want to check in with you, see how marriage is going. She was like, Damien, I had no idea
I
that once
know.
we put those rings on, that it was gonna be so different. I said, I'm just telling. She was like, what happened? I said, I don't. It's just something about when those rings go on, it changes.
And I can't even explain it. And I struggle so much to even articulate it. Like, I don't know, but it's different.
It's different.
It just is.
It just is.
And
And
you really have to be married to understand.
you
Like,
do. It's just one of those things you won't understand it until you
until
walked a
you
mile
in
in
it.
those shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, there was another one when you talked about your big four. Is how when you said something about finance.
Mm-hmm.
How does a therapist help in that particular realm?
So, as small as here's an Excel sheet, put your numbers in here and have a budget, as
Okay.
big as what's your relationship to money? Where did it come from? Why are you in a poverty mindset? Did someone used to financially abuse you? As
Hmm.
big as that.
What's
Mhm.
financial abuse? Somebody being financially abused.
So, like, let's say you tell Jamie, give me your whole check,
Okay.
and she can't ask you no questions, and you don't give her any money, and she go to work every day, and then she just gives you her money, and she does not know where it's going. That's financial abuse.
Wow.
If you say you can only have this amount, but then you go take triple that amount, that's considered financial abuse. If
Wow.
you hang the money over her head, do this, and I'll give you a little extra, that's financial abuse.
Oh my goodness. And so you've seen these different things
Mm-hmm.
with different relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Because and people think that domestic violence is only when someone's getting hit. It's so much
Mm-mm.
more than that.
Yeah.
And so people often overlook that financial piece. Like, no,
Hmm.
you can't work. You need to stay at home with the children. The children are 18.
Oh
Who
boy.
who I'm staying at home with? Like, they finna go. What's
Oh
going
my
on?
goodness.
But if she gets her own job, I don't care what anybody say. Money make you walk a little taller. And when you
It
go
just
from not
does.
having it to
Yeah.
having your own, you just
Yeah.
walk a little taller. People
Yeah.
have less control over you when you have your own money.
Mm-hmm. That's
Mhm.
good. And let's see, we got a comment. Hey, Alicia. Alicia said, making it official different, definitely his different.
She know it do.
That's the truth. She's part of the Queen 3 podcast too.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, so financial abuse. I have never heard that. Let me write that down. Financial abuse. Make sure y'all ain't financially abusing each other out here in these streets.
Okay.
What about dishonesty with finances? Like, you know,
Yeah, you got to talk about that too. You got to talk about why are you trying to hoard all your money? What you think is going to happen?
right.
What has happened to you previously that you're trying to prevent? Why do you feel like you
Mm,
have to lie about it?
yeah,
Now, I know that growing up, they would always tell women, like, keep you a little bit on the side, keep you a little
yeah,
bit on the side.
yeah.
I go back and forth with that because I've heard it for so long that it makes sense to me. But
Right.
then I also believe in transparency.
Yeah.
So,
Do
like,
you
I
think
tell
that's
my
in the black
husband,
community?
I
Have you heard that from anybody else?
have not.
Okay.
And I see couples who are not black
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have a little something on the side.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
just think it's a Black community thing.
I think so too. You know, I'm just I try to be out as much in the open as I can, you know,
Yeah,
because
like
that
I
way,
tell my husband, I got this account over here
yeah,
and it just got my name on it. If at
yeah,
any time you need to know something about it, ask me. I can screenshot it and let you know. Like
right.
to me, that feels better
Mm-hmm.
than like this secret. Because why is it a secret? What are you planning? What
Why
are
is
you
it a secret?
plotting?
Right. And
Like I
then I
have,
be
yeah. Why is it a secret? I have a specific number I'm trying to get to for a
yeah,
specific reason that my
yeah,
husband is aligned with.
right. And I've even seen the another extreme where married couple where the husband is doing everything he can to try to make ends meet. The wife just keep her check.
I know
Just keep the whole check and
to
then say,
herself.
figure it out.
I've seen that
You going out here
multiple
and
times.
you going out here spending your money on whatever, and then he's asking you the money to help, asking you for money to help pay bills
Hmm.
for our house.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
It's so wild to me because you can't stay anywhere for free. Like,
You
what's going
can't.
on?
You just cannot stay anywhere for free. What okay, so let me get the because man, I told you this time was gonna go by fast. Let's see if we can get to a couple more. Um, what about and I know that Jamie and I have over the years have dealt with this too. Having the same argument over and over again. What do you think about that?
I think it happens. I think my husband and I have the same argument over and over again. I think it's trying to be creative with the solution. Like, okay,
Hmm.
we talked about this 2 weeks ago. We tried this, it didn't work. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And I see that a lot in
Hmm.
couples too. And so sometimes there's something underneath.
Yeah.
It's not really the sock by the laundry basket. It's not really the toilet seat being left up. It's something else. So
Hmm.
really getting underneath, like, what is that other thing? Do you
Hmm.
feel disrespected? Do you feel hurt? Did I hurt your feelings? What's underneath this argument that we keep having?
And what do you think about because my thing when that was going on is that I felt like I wasn't being heard.
Hmm.
Is that a big trigger?
That is. Because everybody wants to be heard. And like, we're
Right,
married. You're supposed to be my person. Like, you're my partner. Why can't you hear me? We go
right,
out into the world all day. People ain't
hmm,
half listening. Then I
right,
come home and I don't feel heard. That's
right.
hurtful.
And I think sometimes when you don't, when a person doesn't feel heard, they yell.
They
It's
start
like,
acting
hear
out.
me.
Hmm.
Maybe if I increase my decibel levels, you'll
Hmm.
understand, or you can see the importance or the point that I'm trying to drive home by me saying this to you.
Hmm.
You
Right.
know,
But the thing is, depending on who's yelling and who's being yelled at, if you're yelling at a person who that's a trigger for them and they shut down, they didn't hear you. Like when
right?
people yell at me, I can't hear. Like I don't even know
Yeah,
what you're saying anymore because you're
right,
yelling. And
right.
I'm only focused on you yelling. And so now we're
Mhm.
really not getting anywhere.
Right, right. That's true. That's true. Man, I am so glad that we've because and I think a lot of it too has to do with your domestication, how
Hmm.
you were brought up. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
We yelled in my house,
My
and
mama yelled. Yes.
it's like this how you get your point across. And
Mhm.
Jamie and I, we both came from yelling backgrounds, so guess what? We were some yelling jokers. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? But one thing I had to realize is like I can't handle her like I would handle a guy. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times when dudes yell, next thing you know, we might start fighting. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? And you can't handle your wife that way.
Not at all.
You can't yell it and do all that stuff. I'll never forget I was watching. Did you ever watch that show Mike and Molly?
Mm-mm.
It was a show used to come on CBS, and it was so funny because uh they were having a discussion about something. He was trying to motivate her, so he started yelling at her like a coach,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like he's giving it to her, and he thought he was
Doing
inspiring
good.
her. And the
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, she started crying, and he was like, "What's wrong?" And she did like this. She said, "You're yelling at me," and we both just fell out because it's so real because we
Mm-hmm.
we communicate what we're dealing with, or what, the point we're trying to get across so differently
Right.
across genders. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. Mhm. Definitely.
Man, this has been such a great conversation. I don't think we got about 5 minutes left, so I want to leave it open for to see if anybody has any questions before we start wrapping it up. What did you think about tonight? How you think it went?
Oh, it was great.
It was good.
I loved it.
Good. We had a great time. I think this was really fun. We're gonna open it up. We got about five. We got 4 minutes and 30 seconds left before we've been on for an hour. Does anybody have any questions for Doctor for Miss Therapist Latoya? Does anybody have anything they want to ask before we get off the line? While we're waiting to see if any questions are coming in, why don't you give us all of your handles?
So my favorite place is Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Latoya the Therapist.
Okay.
Facebook, Latoya the Therapist.
Okay.
I mean, I got the other ones, but I don't be on there. So just go follow me on Instagram. That's where I am.
Okay. And then
my website is latoyathetherapist.com.
Okay, latoyathetherapist.com.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can post that real quick. Latoya the therapist.com. Wrong. All right, we're gonna see if that pops up. Boom, there it is. Oh, it's gonna post everywhere. So it's gonna post on all of the social media. And what about if someone wants to book a session with you?
So just go to my website and schedule a session. My practice is all virtual. My paperwork is virtual. Everything's virtual, point and click. So if you go to latoyathetherapist.com, it'll take you to schedule a session, and then you just pick a time that works for you.
Cool. And so when we were talking, getting ready for tonight, I know we talked about your book. Talk about it.
So my book, the title of my book is called The Wife's Guide to Beating the Side Chick. And it is my
I like that.
I know, right? My husband actually came up with the title of the book. But it's my love letter to wives. When I wrote it, I was like new in my marriage. We were going through so much. And I just remember thinking, like, people said marriage was hard, but they ain't say it was this hard. Like, they didn't say I was gonna have to communicate, practice self-care, have sex, let him lead. So I talk about all those things very candidly from a therapeutic perspective, as well as like what was happening in my life. Okay. And so it really is just my love letter to wives, because I really believe that once you become a wife, it's your ministry. Mm-hmm. It's a thing, and It's not for the faint of heart. And so I remember feeling like, dang, I didn't get this in premarital counseling, and so I just wrote, and there it is.
Wow. Was it therapeutic for you to write the book?
It was so therapeutic.
Good. And so if someone wants to purchase the book, where can they find that?
They can get it from my website, or they can actually find it on Amazon.
What? Mm-hmm. We got a celebrity in the house. She got Amazon and all. Okay, then I see you. Okay, good. So it doesn't look like we have any questions coming in. So we definitely have to do this again. I had such a great time. Maybe Big Head Jamie will join us the next time.
I'm hoping so.
I wonder if she's watching us wherever we are. That's why I said that. But I just want to personally thank you for today I found out it's Therapist Social Work Appreciation Week. Month. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate being appreciated.
Thank you for so much the work that you do. I don't think everybody could do it, or everybody shouldn't do it. I think you do an excellent job. I've been watching from afar for years, and you have been amazing. I mean, we met. I don't even think you lived in Texas, and now and look, and we still rocking. So we definitely got to do this again. But I just want to thank you again. I appreciate and value you. People, if y'all need to talk to somebody, just as easy as she is to talk to, I'm sure it's the same way in the session.
It really is.
And you ain't got to worry about COVID because it's virtual.
Right. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate
my pleasure. It. We enjoyed you. Thank you so much. Oh, somebody said, what's the title of the book again?
The Wife's Guide to Beating the Side Chick.
Let me see if I can type that before we get it here. The Wife's Guide to Beating the Side Chick.
That's it.
Beating the Side Chick. All right. I'm going to post that in the comments real quick. And then we are going to get out of here. Y'all go check out Latoya. Give her some love. Y'all go follow her. And y'all have a good night. You have anything you want to say before we go?
Talk to me. I talk back.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. And y'all be good.
Swap on the track right here.